Okay, so third episode of our Sisterhood across this podcast. And right now, after this long 5 minute break, we'll talk about technology. Because I think after COVID-19, that became a huge part of educational system. So at least in Poland, during all those things connected to coronavirus, there's online learning. So we went to school online using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and so on. And I think that was the event that started, I think, a big change in education where teachers started to use new technology during lessons, like some programs like Kahoot, Quizlet. They became popular during COVID-19 and are actually popular still. So do you have like any experience from those time connected to like technology and so on?
Well, yeah, obviously, those first few, I would say, not even weeks, but months of virtual learning were quite hard in terms of using technology. In my school, we mostly used Google Meet. And when we started virtual learning, I've honestly never heard of it. And, like when you go home for those, first, it was only 2 weeks in Poland. You go for those 2 weeks with a thought, oh, maybe we will do nothing. Like those 3 weeks of doing nothing. And you get an email from your teacher saying, yeah, actually we will do like actual lessons, because in my school we surprisingly started doing lessons like from the beginning during using like Zoom Meet and everything. And compared with other schools, I've heard that like some schools like did nothing of virtual learning for the rest of the school year. So it was surprising for me. Although I know that you didn't do anything.
Yeah, like I was in a primary school in that
Yeah, me
time,
too.
like in a yeah, you too. And for I think it happened in like February or so on.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the school year, we did almost nothing, I would say. So there were some teachers they were sending us some emails with exercise to do. Some of them even told us to respond, so to send our those exercises. But from like rest of the subjects, there is like nothing. Like we didn't actually learn for that time. So for almost half a year, and I think maybe in May they were first teachers that actually start doing something, but from like the government side there wasn't that wasn't obligatory.
Yeah.
And I think that was just a huge chaos in Poland, so no one actually know what to do because for the beginning it was just 2 weeks and then it turned into 4 months. So
Yeah.
you were lucky that your teachers like did passly those meetings.
I think they were actually stressed because I was in eighth grade, so I was supposed to have my eighth grader exam in April, but they were actually cancelled, and we we didn't know whether we will write them or not. It was really confusing. So my teachers really pulled through with it and started teaching immediately. But I think if I had been in a lower grade or in high school, actually, then the situation would be different. Although we know all those memes where students tell teachers to press Alt F4, on the laptop or something. There are some fun times about it, but
Mm.
yeah, the first few weeks and months were chaotic.
Yes, and everyone's cameras and microphones were crashed. So I was in a seventh grader, so we have like more than a year to those exams. So probably that's why there wasn't such a big pressure there. But also I have those spiritual learning during like my first year of high school. So it wasn't that popular. It just happened when there's someone in a class who was ill. So you are going to, I think, a week or two to this online learning. But in my case, that was almost half a year. We just went to school for one day and then just go again to those virtual learning. But there we have meetings normally. But for me, it was pretty exhausting because you have to sit before screen for like 8 hours every day with those small breaks. And they were like the Minister of Education recommended to make those lessons shorter. But from my experience, they were longer than normally, not shorter. So there were teachers making those lessons like they said like an hour. So we were like late for the next lesson actually. So that was hard. Just I think the best words to sum up it.
So I was in eighth grade too. It's like I think it's March or something. And so I think they let us there was like a 2 week break and then turned into like a month of break. And then eventually they like got it that we needed to do like virtual lessons. And at first it was like extremely like difficult, right? Like no like a bunch of teachers like had never used like the technology before. They were super confused, especially like the older teachers. And then especially like classes, like I had music class and art class, which is like I don't know how you're supposed to do them online, but they would have us like draw pictures on pieces of paper and like upload them. Like, I remember like it was like horrible. And then, with the cameras and the microphones, like I know people it was like literally because I don't know why, but they started school at the same time. So school started like 7:30. So online classes would start at 7:30. And I know like probably like 80% of the class was still in bed. They would just like turn on the meeting and just listen in bed. But yeah, and then we had summer break and then we had I think like half of the school year was online. And then the second half you could choose to be online or you could go back to school. So ninth grade was partially online, partially not online. But yeah, they got definitely better and they learned to use the technology finally. And I think now there's a lot more online assignments and online homework than there used to be before COVID.
Yeah, and do you have any experience with physical education during
Oh,
virtual learning? Because like I think that's the funniest part of it, or like the biggest nightmare. For example, definitely for some people. Like there was like my teacher who just told us to work out with some video she sent us, and during this like workout, she was asking us where we are, what we are doing to check if we are doing it actually. But I remember those workouts were pretty stupid, and this was just a pretty hard to do. For example, when you have like small room, so you don't really have an opportunity to do it. And but I was like lucky, so we didn't have to switch our cameras on.
Yeah, we during the PE classes, we were required to turn on the camera. And then obviously we had workouts with our PE teachers. I had fitness classes. So yeah, my teacher just doing those exercises in her apartment. We had to do our those exercises in our rooms. Obviously, it didn't quite work out. And yeah, with those cameras on, it was so weird. And after some time, no one was turning them on. My teacher got really mad, and she said that yeah, we are actually graded whether or not we turn our camera on. It was stupid. And for the most part of those virtual lessons, I had PE at 8 a.m. So it was my first lesson. So you can guess that majority of students was in their pajamas, sleeping actually. So yeah, it was fun.
I had like it wasn't called PE, it was called like health class, and we were required to we did like yoga during the class, and we also had to make, which is kind of actually fun. We had to make like a recipe video, like a healthy recipe video. And yeah, I remember my friend, she also had PE at 7:30 in the morning. And she told me like they didn't have to turn their cameras on. So I think like most of the class was just in bed, just watching the teacher do jumping jacks on the camera.
Yeah, so I think the like all things connected to like virtual learning are like pretty similar among all like students around the world. Like we all felt that's all so chaotic that no one actually know what to do and so on. But like after I don't know how many years, like 4, 3 after that, do you think that the things like with technology in school became better? Like does the teachers in your school use like new technologies during like lessons, for example?
Yeah, we like changed like portals so like more assignments are online on like Microsoft. We use Microsoft Teams in the district, and the college uses like Canvas. So pretty much everything's online. And there's actually like more online classes being offered, like especially in the college. Like I took um psychology online, and for some reason math is always online. I don't know why, but yeah, my math is online.
So like in compare to you, like I think in my schools it became much more popular after this or virtual learning to use platform like Quizlet. That's pretty nice to learn languages or Kahoot, join quizzes and so on. So that's the thing that actually really changed. And also what I saw, for example, in my high school, there are many like extra lessons online that wasn't happening before virtual learning, before pandemic. That was something new because they saw that it might be easier for like students to just go there when they are home. They don't really have to wait for those extra lessons. So that was the thing I think really changed after COVID. Yeah, so I think like overall there's lots of technology in like school, and there's lots of technology in education. But I'm also thinking that sometimes it's like pretty that sometimes it's used in a pretty stupid way. And what I mean by that, it's for example in my primary school, from what I heard, they, for example, buy this all those 3D printers or those VR glasses because they got money for that, but they actually don't know how to use it. And when I had like my friend as a history teacher there, and like once in a month she has to use those virtual glasses, VR glasses, and she actually doesn't know how to like connect it to the subject. So it's just like making it because it's popular to make a school looks more prestigious, to make it looks more luxury, or I don't know. But it just like so stupid to me. Or like using having like 3D printer, but actually there is like it's not necessary and no one's using it. But during open days in school, they can show it to parents and to make a good impression on them. So I don't know if you experienced things like that.
I mean, in my school, I think there's also a 3D printer. It's actually in the primary school, but yeah, I've heard about it, and that's it. I've never seen it with my own eyes, and I've never heard about other students doing something with it. So it's it's just there. I don't think the students have been using it so much. I don't know. Like I've never heard about it. I just heard from one of the teachers, yes, we have a 3D printer. Okay, interesting. How do you like when do you use that? Because okay, it's fun that you have a 3D printer, but how can you like integrate it into learning process, which also yeah, which also can be connected with the question like how do we connect the technology that we see that is improving into our learning process. Like there's so much of those technologies that we've talked about, but for like this 3D printer, I would say, or virtual reality glasses, right? Yes. Yeah, so these are examples that I think show that even if the technology sounds like really smart, I don't know, it it can't be really connected with our Polish curriculum. I think if you have like a specific subject, for example, in IB there is something called design or something like that, but there would have to be like a specific subject that would allow for using those technologies. And I think in Poland, the national curriculum isn't prepared for that because, as we said before in previous episodes, Polish national curriculum is really outdated, and I don't think that authors of the curriculum would think that yes, we should integrate 3D printer or virtual reality glasses because probably they didn't even know something like that would exist. So it shows how outdated also the education system is in Poland.
Yeah, I think we will mention it in every episode of our podcast. Like we will just focus on it. But the main problem of Polish educational system. So that's why we are focusing like 1,000 times in all episodes. But Maria, how it's look in US? Are there also stupid example of using technology?
I can't think of anything that's like really stupid because I think my school district's pretty rich. Like, you know how like in the US school districts are funded by property taxes and the area that we live in is like really expensive. So they do get like a lot of funding. But I can think of like a really good example of using technology. Like I took a class a couple of years ago, it was biotechnology, and we did like gel electro something. Like they use like a gel and then you put like pieces of DNA, like just like DNA into the samples of DNA into the thing, and you can see like the strands like move. And then using that, you can like map the DNA to certain different things. And we had like pipettes, like micro pipettes that you can like pipette solutions into like different solutions and centrifuges, like the things that like mix the tubes together and like a bunch of stuff like that, which I think is like a really good use of technology. And for a lot of these like classes that like are career and technology focused, they do, I feel like you use technology to the most. Well, most of them. Like I think biotechnology is a really good example. But like for business, I know that my friend's taking business right now and it's like horrible because they like write essays and stuff, like nothing to do with business.
Okay. Yeah, like I think there are many examples we mentioned, but there's one big we haven't mentioned yet, and it's AI. Because when we are talking about new technologies in school, like we have to mention ChatGPT at least. Like I think it's literally changed a bit school, at least in Poland. Like there's a huge conversation in schools. What to do with students copying the essays from ChatGPT? Or what to do with students, like, for example, making mistakes by copying essays about lectures. And that's a thing, like, so what do you think about it? Do you use it? Any opinions?
I think it's good if you're using it as like a supplement. It's really good like for research, I think. Like let's say like you have an assignment and you're writing an essay about like Supreme Court cases and you want to write an essay about like um Supreme Court cases that like show like why the Supreme Court is like weak in like this sense. Like why the Supreme Court like couldn't like fail to like overturn this case and like how that influenced history. And like you can't choose a specific case. And like you ask ChatGPT like, give me an example of a Supreme Court case that like shows this, right? And it's really good because you like, I mean, to find like that, it would take you like I think minimum 30 minutes, right? To find like a Supreme Court case that you want to talk about. But you ask ChatGPT, it gives you like 5 examples. You can use those examples, read about all of them, and then pick one and write your essay about it. I mean, don't use ChatGPT to write your essay, but use it to like help you find things for your essay, I think. And I think like something that teachers are doing to sort of like help with that, not writing essays using ChatGPT, is they've started to require like writing essays in class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think pretty important to use like properly as a something that might inspire you, but definitely not as a something that can do all work. To copy it and send it to your teacher. Like personally, I use it as you, so to give me some examples to extend maybe my ideas, or like when I'm completely out of ideas, to for example write an email or so on. So they just write this email to me, and I can edit it, personalize it. So that's just helpful. But there are definitely many students that use it in a bad way. And I think, like as Maria, you said that because of that, many teacher like ask students to write those essays in a class. That's also happened in my school. So we are writing more in school just because teachers say that in house we'll write it, we'll just copy it from ChatGPT, and that just have no sense.
Okay, so I guess that this episode was, I would say, different than the others. We focused more on the past and maybe the future, like the future opportunities of education in both the US and Poland. We also mentioned, I would say, some really important topics in the modern times related to ChatGPT, especially ChatGPT. And well, we hope that you were really interested about the subject, and we will probably post on Instagram something related to ChatGPT. I will make sure of it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and you will hear us again for one last episode that we will do together in probably a few minutes.